Hello, hi everyone. This is Achilles from Maxar Software, and today I'm super excited and happy to present to you our latest plugin called Algonaut. Algonaut can be best described as a series of highly curated sequence chords, which you can use in your own musical projects, etc., etc. The name comes from a series of ambient albums that I released some time ago under the artist name Algonautic, thus, hence the, the plugin name. Okay, so Argonaut is a iOS plugin, is a MIDI processor plugin. That means that it does not produce sound on itself, but you can route it to your favorite instrument, to your favorite plugin, and generate sound there. So without further ado, let's begin. This is the main screen of the plugin. I'm just going to disable some options there so we can start from the very beginning. Uh, so the main workflow is very simple, right? So you tap on load, and here you can see a series of chord sequence presets. These are taken from the ambient works that I just described. So they mainly fit that kind of music, like ambient, long forms, things that music beds, music in the background. But of course, feel free to use it as you deem fit. So you can preview. And, and you can see which pitches correspond to these chords. I didn't use chord notation because, like the classic harmonic notation, because some of these chords are widely non-conventional. So I thought that having the actual pitches that that these chords contain is a more accurate representation of the music material there. So let's say that you have picked up a preset, that's a pulsar, I think, yes. Um, there are three modes that you can play around with these pads that you can see on screen. One is the manual trigger. The other is manual trigger latched, so it sustains the pad. And last but not least is to synchronize it with your host. Cool. In that case, if you decide to synchronize the pad sequence with the host, you can go to the alternative layout by tapping on the Shift button and determine a couple of things in the sequence. So, for example, you can determine how many beats every pad lasts for. So we've got 16, 16, 16, and 8 for the last one. I can try to set it to 4 for the first one. And then if I want to copy 4 to all pads, I'll just tap on the all button. I can preview the pieces here. Then I can decide what happens when the pad has finished playing, right? So I've got two options. I've got go to the next pad or play a random pad. So if I set everything to random and I go back, you can see that they're just random pads after every pad has finished. Okay, Another thing is that I can also change the root note, right? So I can select C sharp or D flat. And I can also transpose, use a different octave. Right, so you can use the octave that you want with your instruments. Okay, so these were all the options on the shift views. And now let's go back to the main view. Right, so we've got a couple of extra options there as well. We have, you can actually double the top note of every chord by activating the high doubler. So what that does do is to transpose the top note of the chord. And the interesting thing is that you can route it to another channel. So I have routed to channel number 2, and that goes straight into the nerd synth. So if I play that, sorry. So you can hear kind of a sort of melody on the top from a different voice. And the same applies to the bass. So basically you can expand the chord by doubling the bass note one octave below. And here I have assigned it to another amazing instrument, the VCR synth. Yeah, so I did that on purpose. I lowered the middle chord so you can hear the top and the bottom note of every chord. Now another interesting thing is the mutation function, right? So I'm just going to turn it up so you can hear the whole effect. In the meantime, let me change a bit the duration to something more substantial because it's a bit too short, I think. So the mutation function, every time that you trigger a pad, either from the sequencer or manually, and if the mutation probability is being met, right, it performs an inversion of the chord. So it picks up one of the middle pitches in the chord and it builds on top of that. So it can create interesting variations of chords. So you probably noticed that I triggered the same pad with the same chord, but the voicing was different. And that can come handy, especially if after a certain time you might discover that the chord sequence becomes boring or it needs some change. All right, that's the mutation. So you can adjust the mutation from practically no mutation down to mutation all the time, and deactivate it and activate it exactly at the degree that you want. There is a velocity multiplier, which is a utility that allows you to basically to make everything quieter or louder instead of trying to do it with different sliders or other MIDI controls. Then there is the map So you can map the pads if you want to trigger them from a keyboard. For now, I'm just going to use Aum's own virtual keyboard. So it can learn which pad corresponds to which note. If you're not happy, you can clear that and assign to a different note, whatever. Okay, so you can build sorry, a whole performance by rearranging the pads as you want from different MIDI modes triggered by either your finger or a sequencer or whatever you prefer. And last but not least is the Strum version. So for that, I'm gonna probably change the sound to something more percussive, a key probably. Let's try the space time. Let's take out the delay. Okay, let me just hit. All right, that would do. Excuse me. Okay, so with the strum, I can. So the notes are strummed, like having a almost like a guitar. Okay. So yes, that's pretty much the whole plugin. It's a quite compact plugin, but hopefully can offer you some nice chord sequences that you can use in whatever way you may like. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. Bye bye.